The morning after the storm, like you wanted to pinch yourself that you could wake yourself up from a nightmare.
Every single thing you knew is gone. Not a single family wasn't impacted by this storm in this community.
I think that the strength after a disaster comes from your passion. This is our home. We take pride in it.
New York Rising program is a ground-up effort to restore some sort of normalcy to the lives of people that have been affected by the Hurricane Sandy.
It was born out of the damage from Sandy and Lee and Irene. The governor, recognizing the importance of communities identifying their own priority projects, created this program.
The greatest thing about the New York Rising program is that it really is a grassroots program. It's the government asking the people that live here and that work here as to where they think that the money and the focus should be on.
So the planning committee under the New York Rising project puts a chair or a co-chair, in our case it's one chair, myself, in charge, and then it puts a number of people as committee representatives who are willing to come down and meet, week after week in the hopes of, working through the possible proposals and projects to a point where we're at a level where we could submit them.
We sat down and just discussed what was most impacted in the community, what we think we can do to make the community more resilient, what kind of things we'd like to implement to make Broad Channel a better community, not only for today, but for the future of Broad Channel. One of the big things we're trying to implement with this funding is sort of having a resiliency campus that in case of future storms, we would like backup generators, stuff like that, backup lighting. Those are all things that we're looking to implement in our resiliency program and making this whole area flood-proof.
Planning committees were just chosen, different people in the neighbourhood, different representatives of different parts of the community, and just different people in the neighbourhood that have been involved in community issues. Some from, for instance, non-profits and stuff like that, people just residents, general residents. I'm basically just a resident of the neighbourhood. I sincerely feel like we've tried to hear every voice. We've tried to come up with ideas that actually benefit the whole neighbourhood, that integrate the neighbourhood both socially, economically, and physically as well, whether it's transportation, whether it's building resiliency into public housing, getting energy, clean energy, getting off the grid, rebuilding our infrastructure, our stormwater and sewer. I think all of these really, resiliency both for the residents and for the commercial elements of Red Hook. I think all those things moving forward will be enhanced by this process.
What's great about the New York Rising program that it was really designed to have maximum community input. We've brought in the public. I think we've had about 3 meetings or 4 meetings to this point where the public was able to weigh in on every step that the committee was taking.
Some of the plans that we've come up with involve centers that we have identified as being emergency centers. They're going to be strengthened so that they can survive a situation like this, whether it be generators to make sure that they're up and running, supermarkets that are needed, gas stations, whatever it is you need.
I think when you think back to Sandy, one of the biggest issues that people had was they didn't know where to go, they didn't know who to speak to, and they didn't know where the resources were for them to access. So we don't want that to happen again, and one of the priorities that we've identified is creating a number of communication hubs and relief centers that will be identified well before a storm, that people will know where to go when the unthinkable happens.
So how does the community provide their feedback? In this particular public engagement session, what we wanted to do was something a little bit different that gets them to really start thinking about, you have potentially $19 million, how would you spend it? Each person that came in was handed an envelope with $19 million in it. And as they went around and started taking a look at the projects, allocate the dollars into boxes that represent each of the different projects.
We have the projects that we have laid out, that would be an allocation of the resources, and people are coming in, they're getting involved, they're part of the process, and they're actually able to indicate what they like and what they don't like.
Some of the key priority project categories in the Breezy New York Rising Committee is coastal protection on the ocean side as well as the bay side.
There was, meetings in multiple different areas around the area over the last 6-month process. And multiple times at the beginning, people were engaged to define and make the mission statement of what we wanted in Lower Manhattan. The top priorities for the panel group, based on the input from the public, was emergency preparedness. And with that would be the recovery centers, so that people have a place to go to get information. That's what people always need. They want to know what's going on. Where can the small businesses go? What support can they get in terms of business continuity? What can they do in terms of making their infrastructure for their store more resilient? Is it raising everything up 4 feet, the electrical grid, so the impact is less last time? We also looked at stormwater mitigation and what can be done to absorb intense rainstorms, so such as bioswales or community gardens, increasing the capacity of absorbing water and storm runoff from roofs.
Please come next door to see the DEC presentation is about to begin. We want all of you to come in and see the presentation in the next room, and then you can come back out here and vote if you haven't voted already. Thank you everyone for coming, and we'll see you inside.
One of the major projects that I'm really excited about is having a relief center. God forbid we do have another natural disaster, whether it be a hurricane or a storm, a nor'easter, a big fire. What can we do to be better prepared for that as a community? To reach out to our neighbors that need help, our seniors, our youth, those that are living alone, those that may have different needs. How can we better be prepared to serve them and to help them in their time of need?
The top priority is the coastal perimeter protection, which are berms and gates and storm barriers all along our southern edge. We also are looking at making our community centers and our community assets more available post any storm, and setting them up, getting the word out to the community where these things are going to be, where they can go.
You have to structure your community so that in events like this again, that we've taken some protective measures. So at the moment, we have projects similar to the ferry operation, which, being a barrier island, has been an integral part of transportation and potentially ways of getting emergency equipment and needs in the time of any future natural disasters.
It's a very enlightening process, especially to people who had no community input except going to the beach and sharing a cooler with their neighbor. But now you have such a varied group of people that are sitting at a table deciding on what we're going to do together as a community. I think with projects like New York Rising, it's a glue that's going to kind of stick us together and keep us there.
I think the process has definitely opened up a dialogue between the community and the powers that be, so that they know what's important for the people that live here and work here.
I think one of the greatest opportunities with the New York Rising program has been not just the ability to allocate funds for specific projects, because we're going to have the opportunity to do that, but more than that has been the opportunity to identify projects that we can't afford right now, larger scope projects.
There's not only passion and involvement from the community, but there's real brain power and expertise in many different areas, and I think they can see that. I think they're in pretty good hands. I think we're going to get some really good ideas, some good results, and I think Red Hook's going to come out of this much more resilient and much stronger.
Breezy Point's coming back. It's going to be a lot better community.
4 more generations of my family will be here, and it'll be better off because of what we're doing and what the New York Rising program is doing.
Whether it's here in Broad Channel, the Rockaways, all coastal communities are getting a lot more attention, which is long overdue.
New Yorkers are strong. They have a determination to rebuild, and they're going to rebuild better than ever before.